All right, I think we can get started. Welcome, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. Mr. Colavita, would you take the roll call, please?
Ms. Grillo?
Present.
Mr. Herbert?
Here.
Ms. Linthorst?
Here.
Ms. Long?
Here.
Mr. Mason?
Present.
Ms. Murray?
Here.
Mr. Sawicki?
Here.
And Ms. Tracy?
Here.
We have a quorum.
I'd like to invite you to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advanced notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Hopewell Valley News, the Times, and the Trentonian on January 8th, 2019. The meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. The meeting is being videotaped for the purposes of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on Comcast Channel 19, Verizon Fios Channel 32, and the school district website, www.hvrsd.org. I would like to request a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting of June 15th, 2020, please.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? The motion carries. I have a very brief report tonight. I wanted to remind any members of the public that may be on with us tonight that the last date to get in paperwork, applications, petitions for running for the Board of Education is next Monday, July 27th by 4 p.m. And there are 3 seats in Hopewell Township that are up for election this time. I also just wanted to say a quick thank you yet again in this crazy year that we're living in to all of our administrators and staff and to our board members as well for your diligence and all the work that you're doing with regard to the reopening and policies related to that. You know, it really is a Herculean task and a lot is going on behind the scenes, and I hope you know how much the work that you're doing is appreciated, so thank you. And with that, I will pass it off to Dr. Smith for his report.
Sorry, it's the first time I've been on a video call. Seriously, thank you very much for that kind introduction. We appreciate it. And so what tonight I'm going to present is the update on our reopening planning. Think of this as the executive summary. Behind it is a 60-plus page document, which will be distributed to the board later this week with the hope of further review. So board members, our work is not over yet. Our goal is to get information out to the community sooner rather than later. So my hope is that after discussion this evening, I will send out a letter to the community tomorrow to review this, as well as reflect on remote learning, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and also transportation. So there's some more decisions that we need from our community to move forward. Members of the community, there'll be an opportunity for public comment at the conclusion I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have a website or an email address that we'll share with you at the end of this where you can send out questions. We also have a frequently asked questions document, which I think is upwards of 9 to 10 pages now. Anything I get from parents, I'm trying to put in there. That'll be posted on our website tomorrow also. Without further ado, I'll take you down the road of our reopening. Before we do that, though, I would just like to take a quick hello and thank you to the Central High School administration and all of this craziness. They held graduation on Saturday, and it was just a beautiful day. It was a morning. It was quick. It was pleasant. I think it was really nice. All the feedback that I got was very positive. I think the parents enjoyed it. I think the students enjoyed it. And I knew it took a lot of work to pull together. So I'd really like to just thank the administration for all of their work and our facilities and grounds department for making it happen. It really was something special. And as I said at graduation, a lot of districts just chose not to do it because it was too hard. We really put a lot of thought into it. I really appreciate the parents trusting us that we were going to do it and do it right. And I think we were able to do that. And the weather was nice. So what more could you want? All right, so now we're going to take you down this road. The board has seen the majority of this presentation before in our work session. Members of the public, this will be posted on the website. I have updated it from last week based on some questions and some feedback, which we'll go through. Before I start, I'm also going to say all of this has a lot of caveats. One is we don't know specifics of what's going to happen in September based on either state directions or some feedback from our own parents about folks who are interested in remote learning, things like that. We'll talk that through, but all of this is subject to change. Our goal is to get information out, finalized to our families the beginning of August. But again, I think we're ahead of the curve in many other districts where we're giving a lot of information early on, where opportunity to respond to questions and get the information out there for planning purposes. All right, so Deb, could you just let me know if you can see this?
Yes, I can see it. Thank you.
Great. All right. So I think most people are aware of the state developed a restart and recovery plan for education. They provided it to us. It wasn't that long ago, a couple of weeks ago. And within that, said the districts must develop reopening plans that account for resuming in-person instruction in some capacity. Plans will look different in each district. So again, a caveat with all this, those of you who may on your free time check out what other districts are doing. I certainly have done that. There's about 100,000 different schedules and ways that districts are approaching this. We looked at our survey data. Big thank you to board member Jess Garillo for dissecting a lot of that data, putting that into, reflecting on it, and developing our plan based on it. We had over 4,000 responses to our survey. So I want to thank our community too for taking part of this. Before we go any further though, I know that this is a challenging time for many of us. I know that there's a lot of decisions to be made on the district side. I know there's a lot of decisions to be made on the parent side. But I pledge to you that we're going to do our very best to ensure that our schools and classrooms are safe for our students and for our staff. In terms of cleaning, that's probably the number one question I get about our cleaning and screening protocols for our students. We are going to follow all social distancing and PPE guidelines. We're going to support, this is probably the most important aspect of all of our work, support the mental and physical health of our students and staff. But ultimately, we are a public institution that is responsible for educating our youth, and we want to make sure that that instruction is meaningful. And something I'm very proud to say, thanks to our technology department, but we have virtually 100% connectivity and working devices in all of our students' hands. You might have seen what the governor talked about with the digital divide. That is something we attacked early on in Hopewell Valley. And again, a huge thank you to the Board of Education for their foresight. Who would have known 5 years ago when we started our one-to-one initiative that we would be here? But that really set us up well moving forward. And particularly the board pushing us to not just put devices in kids' hands, but really change the face of instruction, moving more towards a blended learning environment. We're not perfect by any means, but we are light years ahead of many other districts. So our work to reopen the schools, we have 6 subcommittees who've been working for many weeks. We've broken them up into governance, technology, facilities, operations, instruction, and wellness. I'm just going to give you a brief overviews in each of these areas. Facilities, this is really their focus is on creating clean and safe schools, looking at cleaning protocols that exceed the CDC and Department of Health guidelines, cleaning our classrooms, restrooms, locker rooms. We have electrostatic cleaners, UV wands we purchased. We are using eco-friendly cleaners whenever possible. Schools and offices will have hand sanitizer in every classroom and office, disinfecting wipes, gloves, but making sure that folks use gloves appropriately. Those of you who probably read something, sometimes hand washing is better than gloves. It doesn't help if people keep their gloves on all day. They're really one-time use. Plexiglass panels for high traffic areas and those staff members who would like those. We have our facilities department who, again, the foresight, we purchased sheets of plexiglass well over a month ago, where I know other districts now are facing back orders of out until October. So we've ordered those. We've been cutting those up to make them desktops available for protection of our staff members and students. HVAC systems, making sure that we have the maximum fresh air capacity. And something, again, that we were, I would argue, ahead of the curve, using outside spaces for class meetings as much as possible. Many of you are touched by our schools. You know, we have our commitment to open space. We have a great partnership with Phobos and making sure we're expanding those opportunities to be outside. You know, you're going to hear this repeatedly over the next probably year. Do not come to work or school if you're exhibiting symptoms, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We all have to maintain personal hygiene by washing hands frequently and completing a daily self-health checklist, which we'll talk about. Maintaining social distancing. There's going to be signs all over our schools, similar to those in other retail spaces. Wearing masks at all times indoors, unless you're in a private room or an office, and outdoors where physical distancing is not possible. I ask everybody to practice now by wearing your mask for long periods of time, covering your cough or sneeze, all of that stuff we've always been taught to do, but really making sure that we do it and holding true to that. Operations, making sure that we are providing an opportunity to provide remote learning for families who cannot return to in-person instruction. I know that this was a big question. I got many emails over the weekend with the rumor saying that remote learning was prohibited. Hopefully people realize that the governor sent out a clarification today, and they're going to send out specific clarifications that remote learning will be an option for parents in the state of New Jersey, particularly in the Hopewell Valley. He didn't mention Hopewell Valley, but I just like to throw it in there. Lunch service options will include pre-ordering meals, preparing meals, which require less labor. A lot of our lunches, when we do that, will be lunch and go, or grab and go, sorry. Even at the high school where there will be no lunch served, the high school and middle school, we will have it set up so students can grab and go on their way out. Students on free and reduced lunch, this is the group that we really paid a significant amount of attention to, rightly so, making sure that no one goes hungry in our district under our watch. And a big thank you to transportation delivering lunches to all of our free and reduced students since March. And we're going to develop some instructional videos for our youngest learners and our oldest learners about how to enter school, and for staff members about some of their commonly asked questions. Some areas that we need to, this is our governance subcommittee. You know, there's enrollment and attendance policies that are in state code and in district policies that we need to address because we're in a different environment. And how do you work through somebody who's being quarantined for 14 days? How does that count? Is that a special, is that a special annotation on areas, or is it not? We're working through that. What if somebody becomes sick in school? How do we deal with that? Working through those protocols. Isolation rooms on each of our schools where students or staff members who exhibit symptoms, putting them in an area where they can't infect other people. Remote learning with limited notice. I can say with reasonable certainty that if we are in person, we are going to need to switch at some point to remote learning for some reason during the course of the fall, and having the mechanism in place and for us being ready to pivot quickly and smoothly. And again, providing a return to school guidance for our staff, students, and parents. This is a step towards that, getting information out early, but hopefully we've done a decent job of bringing people up to speed, but we will continue to do that in the weeks ahead. And FAQs, I think, will go a long way to answering many parents' questions. Technology, our commitment to make sure that all of our students have a working device. We have reached that goal. We have really worked to facilitate internet access for all of our students and really have helped out a lot of students who did not have that. A big part about this is I think there's a different environment for some students in a virtual classroom, making sure that the norms are established, procedures, and our students are good citizens, digital citizens. And a lot of feedback from our survey and really from anecdotal from our parents of making sure assignments are all in the same place. So we heard it loud and clear from parents, particularly on the secondary level, kind of doing the chase online and figuring out where things are posted. That'll be resolved, and families will receive detailed information on navigating OnCourse. Now, I just want to say quickly before I go, this is a really a first world problem for us to have, and we're going to address it and hit it. But, we were dealing with, things posted online that might not have been easily found, whereas other districts were literally mailing home packets to our students. I'm not saying that disparagingly, but we also need to recognize kind of how far we've come and so how far we're ahead of others. Not that we don't have a lot of room to grow, but we have a great foundation to move forward on. Something I think not only the physical wellness, and we'll talk a little bit about two-step screening. All staff and students will complete a daily exposure symptom survey prior to entering the building or boarding the bus. That will be app-based, which will share more information in the coming weeks. All students and staff will be screened as they enter the building. We have temperature kiosks in every building. In our district, we have multiple ones, and we'll have multiple entrances that are monitored and will be monitored by trained staff, making sure that as kids come in, number one, that they're safe, and number two, that they're screened. The mental health part of this is, I recognize that it's going back to school will be a big step for many staff members and many students. I was in the high school over the weekend preparing for graduation, and in the PAC Center, they still was the set for Cinderella. We had just kind of walked away from that. No one expected that we would be gone for the months that we were gone. So that's going to be something for our students and staff to overcome, and something we have to take really account of. I want to level set everybody. The work when we return to in-person education is really going to focus a lot on this wellness and on the mental health of our students and staff. We will get to the assessments, but our goal is to make sure that our students are back to school, they're happy, they're safe, and they're comfortable. If you think about that Maslow's hierarchy, that we're taking care of all those basic needs, and then we will work towards assessing and moving forward with their education. We need to support staff. We have an employee assistance program. We want to make sure that they are available for our staff in the first 2 weeks of school. Obviously, we've talked a lot about our therapy dogs. Just a quick side note, we have 8 new therapy dogs that are in training, and this time next year, hopefully we'll have 8 recent graduates. So that'll be a great thing. Not that there will be, I've gotten some questions from parents. those dogs will be there for students who want to see them. So they will be in specific locations. It's not that they're going to be wandering the hall for any student that has a fear or anxiety regarding that. But they do make a difference for students. We have seen that. Counselors in CST will be checking in with our students who have been identified in the past as having some needs. So we're making sure we already are doing that over the summer. As I mentioned, instruction for the beginning and when we get back, it will not be the priority, but as we transition, students will be assessed and provided additional supports as needed. On-course improvements will be made. This is another big feedback that parents couldn't see the same thing as their child. We are making adjustments to that. Staff will receive additional training in blended learning to make the transition seamless. Again, one thing I know is that the odds of us going from in-person to remote learning at some point over the fall are better than average, and we want to make sure that that's as seamless as possible. So we're going to do a lot of work in bringing parents up to speed on how they can effectively navigate all the information in on-course. And making sure that we're set. And obviously a remote learning plan in the event, not only that we're remote learning, but those families who choose remote learning. So there's a possibility. I mean, I think we have all read the paper of, there might be a time between now and September where the state determines that we will be all remote coming back. I have no inside information, but I'm just reading the paper like everybody else. Transportation, buses will run at a reduced capacity. Students may be screened again prior to boarding the bus. We're looking at putting assistants on the bus who will screen our students as they come on. Students will be required to wear masks while they're on the bus. Drivers will be wearing masks on the bus. Buses will be disinfected between the runs. And parents, you'll see this, parents who are interested in transporting their children to help us reduce bus capacity, but just because they like that safety of it, they will be doing that. And we hope to send that out next week, or this week, I'm sorry. And we're asking, if you're going to do that, we're asking you to commit for the entire school year. So what does a school day look like? So, students get up in the morning. Step one, the parents work with the students, and they will be asked to do a self-screen with 3 quick questions. Are you experiencing any of the following symptoms? Have you had close contact with someone who is currently sick? Have you or someone in your house been diagnosed? So at that point, obviously, an answer to any of these would mean that you should not come to school. In a perfect scenario, you fill out this survey. If you are a secondary student who has a smartphone, the smartphone app will turn green. You show that to your bus driver. You show that as you come into school. We have mechanisms for, obviously not every student has a smartphone, and obviously our kindergartners don't, our elementary folks don't. So we'll walk you through that also. Students are screened again when they come on the bus. They're socially distanced. When they get off the bus, we will have a set extended drop-off times that'll allow students to arrive. So there's talk about, say, I'll use a middle school, and don't quote me on the exact times, but for example, 6th grade will arrive at one portion of the building between 7:15 and 7:30. At that time, they'd be funneled in, they will be screened, and they will go directly to a classroom, not like the big holding areas that we've had in the past. That's just not going to happen. All individuals will be screened, temperature screened upon entering the buildings, and anyone with an elevated temperature will be immediately placed in an isolation room. So that's the setup. Now, the big questions and people are interested in is the sample of the hybrid schedule. This is the draft one. Before people start really diving into this, the start times and end times are not 100% set in stone yet. All right, so let me say that again. The start and end times are not 100% set in stone yet. 2 is the instruction. They are not necessarily when instruction starts, because we are going to have some time, as I mentioned, for drop-off. We can't have, as we had in the past, 500 or 800 students dropped off in a 15-minute window, as we've done at the middle school and high school. That's going to be spread out over 45 or so minutes. More details will come with that. Our goal at this point is to have all of our pre-K through 5th graders in school all day. Students will stay in the same room. Lunch will be eaten in the class. Specials will rotate in. Now, this is all contingent. You'll see that asterisk on the number of students who select full-time remote learning. Another caveat to all of this is if we have 100% of families who say, well, you know what, I like what you guys are doing. We want every student to return to K through 5 elementary school socially distanced, we don't have the room or the staff to do that. We would have to switch and make sure that we would running an A day, B day schedule, actually probably on the K-5 level. This schedule is built on the feedback that we've gotten anecdotal and from our surveys that there will be a percentage of parents who would like the full remote learning option. So we're going to hash that out over the next 2 weeks. But this is kind of our best case scenario schedule. Now, we have about 3 or 4 other draft schedules. They include an A day, B day on the elementary level. They include a half day on the elementary, depending on situations. So we really need to get this data from parents to finalize this. But this is, again, kind of our best case scenario schedule. The secondary level, we're looking at an A day, B day flip-flop where students are split, and don't quote me on the exact last names because we'll look at that. It might end up as A through M or another letter in the alphabet. But we're looking at 4 50-minute classes in the morning in person. There would be no lunch. Students would leave. We would give them a grab-and-go lunch if they want it. Then we would, students would be, the M through Z students in this example, would be remote learning at home. The goal for this and our reason for the development of this is we wanted every student to have a live connection with a staff member every day. We looked at bringing in or running different schedules where students were maybe on and in person, and then the next day they were totally off doing remote learning. We really wanted to move away from that because we wanted every student to have some connection with a staff member. One, for their own, kind of mental health and our safety in connection with them. 2 is because we need to keep that remote learning connection because, again, as I mentioned, I have a pretty good suspicion that we are going to be transitioning back and forth from in-person to remote learning at some point over this fall. And then the B day is a flip-flop of that. Where the M through Z are in person on the B day, and then the A through L students are remote learning. Now you will ask, on the B days, what are the A through L students doing if they're not in class in the morning? They're doing the work that the teachers gave them. So there is a bit of independent learning on that level an expectation. Now with that, it's important to note that we are looking some options for students coming in for multiple days, that particularly our special needs students on specialized schedules. They will be made on a individual basis and working with our special education department, and some of our special needs programs they might not necessarily follow this program. But again, those of you who've looked at other districts, some are going A week, B week, some are going AA day, BB day. We really felt that this worked best for our district, and the setup and the feedback from our staff really felt that this was the most achievable, and making sure that, I talked a lot about mental health, but we also need to continue to move our students forward. If the thinking is that we bring our students in for a full day on A day, doing all of their classes, and then they're off for the next day, the teacher is in effect repeating the schedule for the previous day with just a new group of students. So you've kind of reduced the new material by 50% in those models. My argument is, I think with this, we continue to move forward with instruction. And then the remote only option, we're looking at 1 section per grade per school. We know that we have staff members who are unable to return to school. So this is hopefully going to match them up with the students who aren't coming to school and with the staff members. Big question I get is there a cap on the remote learning? Yes, we certainly, we don't expect one teacher to work with 50 students who are remote learning in 1st grade, but we will work through that and see a lot of this based, again, on parent feedback. And then on the 6-12 level, providing sections of each subject for the students. But that'll be dependent upon how many students choose that. All right, so I have a few more slides. I'd like to get through those, and then I'll entertain questions from the board. And then at the conclusion, we can open up for public comment. Again, you've heard me say variables, 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 and caveats. There's something we got to recognize, that this is not the schedule for the entire school year. Something and will and possibly can change based on directives from the state or from the Department of Health, or maybe by Thanksgiving, everything is cured. They have a vaccination and we are back to full-time instruction as we were in the past. I am hopeful, but this will be reassessed during the first marking period, and possibly we could change things. Obviously, as you see, where colleges are doing similar things, where they're getting to Thanksgiving and then they're reassessing the spring semester. This will also be dependent on the number of families who select remote learning, a number of families who waive transportation, number of students who are unable to return to school will impact this. And as I mentioned, if the state says that we all have to go remote learning or they mandate a closure, we will have to adjust. And as I mentioned, we have many additional schedules in response to some of those changes. I talked a little bit about special needs students, and this was an area, and we've, a big shout out to Paulette Donardo and Georgine Johnson for really taking care and making sure that these students are taken care of through this. And something we've also heard, and we're putting in mechanism to provide online support programs for our parents. So even if you choose remote learning at home, I know that it can be a struggle for some families, in trying to provide them some level of support and feedback as we go through this. And our students who have significant needs, making sure that our staff are supported through that. I'm thinking of our littlest students where they have difficulty wearing masks and wearing face shields. And again, making sure that our staff and our students are supported in this. Speech OT and physical therapy will be provided either remote or through live instruction. So another thing, again, based on a lot of feedback and the recognition that we may need to switch back and forth between in-person and remote learning, our remote learning will be live instruction, and the expectation it will mirror the school schedule as much as possible to facilitate a smooth back and forth. The classes will be, it will be just like an in-person class. Students will be expected to be in person. Attendance will be taken. We're going to work very hard to replicate the classroom experience with our staff. As I mentioned several times, but improving our on-course access for parents and standardizing the on-course use for staff, making sure everything's posted in the same place. And, the probably biggest change in this is, we'll be moving away from Google Hang to the more socially accepted, or not socially accepted, but we've heard cries from our parents and from our staff members of moving towards Zoom. We've had a number of conversations with them, and we feel that their security measures and our ability to create breakout rooms was something our teachers were requesting, and that we feel comfortable making that transition for September. Other important items that you should be aware of: no field trips before January 1st. We're not approving them. We're not even looking at them. So we will, table all of that to see where we are. The back to school convocation that we do for staff is not going to occur. That will be done virtually. No in-person large group events or whole school meetings and grade level meetings. They're wonderful things, but at this point, we're not putting those into place at this time. So we'll be reviewing that as we go through, but really our focus is going to be providing socially distanced and small group experiences. Athletics on the agenda tonight is step one in our athletics plan. And I say this with a huge caveat. We will be monitoring everything from now until August 1st before the start. We will move towards a phase one start of fall athletics beginning August 1st. That'll allow for voluntary summer activities with a number of protocols for students to return and for staff members to return. Those include multiple screenings and supports, students working in small pods. That information is available from the NJSIA. We'll also put it on our website. The start of the regular season has been pushed back until September 14th for girls tennis, football, and all other sports. And you can see kind of the setup for the regular season. We are hopeful that this will get off the ground. However, I think we all need to be realistic when all the local colleges in the areas have moved away from all fall sports. This is something I think we have to level set ourselves before. If they happen, great. If not, I think we have to be prepared. And we're going to dip our toe in this next step. And I'm going to say we're going to approach it incredibly, incredibly cautiously as we move forward. We've been working closely with the Y. They have been, you may or may not know this, they've been providing childcare throughout the closure using social distancing and screening procedures. They will continue to do that. They will expand into before and after care in our elementary schools. That means if your student is in before or after care, they're going to be screened by the Y, and they're going to be screened again when they come into the building. So, and additionally, their requirements might be a little different than ours. So I just want to kind of make sure that people are aware of that. And we're also exploring the possibility of in-district childcare for staff members through the Y. This is a huge, huge, I know families and some of childcare organizations are not providing childcare. They've closed their doors and they don't know what they're doing in September. And our staff members are struggling. They want to come back to work, but they have childcare requirements. We're trying to fill that need, and I'm really thankful for the Y of exploring it. No guarantees yet, but we're trying to make that happen. So these are the other big questions. What happens if? So this is, obviously working with our local health officials, but also following the CDC guidelines. This is where, we're saying this is kind of our no joke response to this. If we have a case in our schools, we will close schools for 2 to 5 days. No questions asked. This initial short-term closure will allow us to figure out what's happening, communicate immediately to our community, and begin contact tracing. Now, from what I understand, the County of Mercer has 3 trained contact tracers at this point, or paid contact tracers. We are going to train at least 2 contact tracers per school building. So that'll be taking place well before this. So not that we're going to go rogue, but we'll be able to better assist our local health officials. And this, again, will allow us to get information out to our community quickly and efficiently. One thing I think we've all learned from last spring is the need to share information to our community. Now, I want to, again, say that, our Department of Health will also say this. You're not going to get the person's name, but you will find out if your child has been in a classroom that has been where somebody has been tested or positive for COVID. So we're working through that. Obviously, during school closures, all of those extracurriculars and things will not happen. And then we'll be sharing information with families and making sure that they aren't spreading or getting information out being in large scale events where they could further the spread. And contacts may be quarantined up to 14 days and placed on remote learning. So there's a potential that, we might shut down the school, but if you're in one of the affected pods, even if you're not exhibiting symptoms, and this is in conversations with our health officials, but I'm just putting it out there, that whole pod of students could potentially be on remote learning for 14 days. We have a number of if-then statements. We're waiting on some specific guidance from our Department of Health, but I just want to make people aware that we are putting out these kind of if-thens for folks to understand, because if this happens, this is how we're going to approach it, and really trying to hit these milestones for folks so they're comfortable and they're aware that we are going to share information as much as we possibly can in a timely and efficient manner. One of the things I suggest is if you download the Hopewell Valley app from any store like the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, that's going to be our really go-to where you can get notifications using the HVRSD app. Contact tracing, as I mentioned, we're going to follow the guidelines provided by the Department of Health. Although it's not required, we're training staff in each building. And again, I want to make sure that folks' contacts might be quarantined and placed on remote learning for 14 days. So even if you're in a class and you're not showing any symptoms, if you're in contact with somebody, we are making sure that you are going to be everybody as safe as possible. Something it can't get lost at this time is our school security offices, school security efforts. We've done a tremendous amount of work, and a thank you to the community and to our staff members for making this work. But we need to make sure that we are continuing our efforts while we have students outside of our classroom walls, and while we have students entering possibly from more than one entrance. Arrivals and dismissals will be monitored by trained staff. No visitors will be permitted during the school day. We are fortunate, again, that we have access control systems already. We have a monitoring system. All of our cameras are live monitored. In the event of emergency, the police can just log in. We have a robust camera system, as I said, with remote view. And we do have security patrolling in place in all of our schools to protect it. So we are, and again, we have a positive relationship with our Hopewell Township Police, who will be working closely with us, particularly as we return to school. So as I end with important upcoming dates, so we've asked staff members to complete a return to work survey. They completed that last week. We are going to be sending out information this week to parents. They're going to be asked to commit to remote learning for one marking period, or on the elementary, we have trimesters. So whatever the equivalent is, I think it's somewhere around November 21st. The parent transportation waiver. We hope to have finalized schedules out to everybody in early August, so everybody can make plans and understand what's going on. And our first day of school is September 3rd. Question about whether we're going to adjust that. At this point, I do believe we are ahead of the curve in terms of our planning. We're going to have information provided to our staff members. We have 2 days of professional development prior to September 3rd. So I think we're in a good spot. However, I do reserve the right to adjust that, or to request the board adjust that. But I have to say, I'm feeling pretty positive in terms of our preparation at this point. So I don't want to adjust it. If we do adjust it, I will let you know well in advance. So here's the questions. This presentation will be posted. It's an easy, obviously you can always send an email to me, but HVRSD 2020 at hvrsd.org. You can put those questions in there. And our FAQs are coming. They'll be posted tomorrow. Any good questions, we'll actually add to the FAQs to make sure that everybody shares that information. All right, so I spoke a little quickly. I apologize for that, members of the Board of Education, but I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have regarding the information that I presented tonight, with the understand that a couple things, that there'll be a detailed document. Think of this as just the executive summary, but mentioning cleaning protocols and things like that, and bathroom setups. All of that will be contained in our return to school plan that will be posted on our district website after board review. And we're probably, sorry to keep you out another night, but I'll have to, board president Linthorst, we might need one more meeting this month to review and finalize that plan with the board. But most of the stuff you saw today is the executive kind of summary of all of that, and all the details will be contained in that report. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Tom, I actually have a question when it comes to extracurricular activities.
Yep.
With you, I think it probably won't happen, but the days that students come in and they're doing that they're until noon, do they then have to leave school? They'll have to get a ride home and then come back for a practice? I understand if you're home for the day, you come at time for practice, but to have students have to leave and then come back, is there any way to set it up that there's designated areas for the day, or we just need to get the school empty to clean?
Well, so we one of the reasons why, particularly on the secondary level, is to facilitate some deep cleaning during that time. However, we know that the staff are going to be there doing remote instruction. They're going to be in the buildings doing that. So we are, not to speak for Principal Riley, but we have explored the potential of a place to socially distance kids.
Okay.
Because the last thing we want is for kids to go home and come back. There's that whole notion of social bubbles and trying to limit your exposure. So as much as we can keep kids within our school bubble, we're going to try to do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Tom, along those lines, like an inverse situation is kids who are on remote instruction for the day, but might have a practice. And I say that from the standpoint of, we've worked a lot to improve equity within the district. We've done things like extra bus runs to help students who needed to get home after practices, things like that. What do we have a plan for students who might not be able to get a ride to a practice?
So that's something we've had a lot of conversation about. That's kind of our next step of planning, of bringing kids back in that A/B scenario. Kids are home and that want to participate who don't have the opportunity to get back. So that's something we haven't. My hope is we get back to in person. And then my hope is that we can run after school activities, and then we can make that all happen.
Sure. Okay. I had two other questions for you, Tom.
Yep.
One relates to, the amount of instruction at the secondary level. If we're having staff do lessons to our in-school students, and then we spend the afternoon for the students who are remote learning, it seems that that's focused on instruction. We've done a lot in terms of putting things like recitations in place over the last couple of years to, give that extra assistance. Do we have any plan? Is there going to be a way for students to get that extra help? That's my first question. And the second one relates to the fact we have, a number of staff who through necessity have to work in close proximity to students, a lot of the staff, especially paras. I guess my question is, do we have protocols and plans to get the correct personal protective equipment, and are we going to have that staff trained before the students arrive?
So I'll start with the second one first, and I know particularly Paulette, and I know she's on the line, and I might defer to not only Paulette but also Principal Riley from the high school regarding your first question. But that's not even at the high school level with our paras working in close proximity to students.
Oh, sure.
We have a number of staff members on the elementary level who are responsible for toileting some of our students. So Paulette, I know, is working with them to make sure, and working with our school physician to make sure that we have all appropriate coverings for them, to make sure that they are safe, that they are comfortable, and that we will provide any training that they need. Paulette, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, and then we can move over to Trish.
No, you covered it all, Tom, but just to reiterate, I am working closely with our school physician, as well as just talking with a lot of the surrounding districts and collaborating with the administration, special education administrations, just so that we can, share ideas of how to protect the staff and how to properly support the students. So there will be training and there will be protocols in place to keep everyone safe.
The only good thing out of this situation, Adam, is that we're not the only ones going through it. So there is, and there's a lot of, I think, lighthearted competition between many of the districts in the county. But in situations like this, we're really all working together, sharing plans, sharing schedules. You might see that our schedule looks similar to others because in my benevolence, I shared it probably about a month ago with some other districts. But it's at this point, we're all just doing the best we can for students and staff. Principal Riley, I don't know if you wanted to jump in and talk about recitation and some of the supports for kids at the high school level.
We absolutely are planning on continuing with recitation. At this point, we're considering keeping it at the very beginning of the day, not only to be able to provide that support for students, but also to help students with some executive functioning skills. I think all of the changes in schedule and the back and forth might really be difficult for some students. So by starting the day with recitation, instead of having it in the middle between second and third period, we thought that might be a good opportunity for students to work through some things organizationally and really get a strong start to the day.
Okay, no, thank you.
Any other questions?
Tom, I have a quick question, and I apologize if I missed it and you mentioned it already, but what is the plan for recess at the elementary level, assuming they're all eating lunch at the same time and would have recess at the same time? How do we aim to keep them apart while outside?
Good question, and I didn't cover it, but they won't all be eating lunch at the same time, and they won't be having recess at the same time. So
Okay.
one of the things we've talked about is providing, whether it is the PE teacher or another individual, taking the students outside. You know, the other part was we're going to try to work in mask breaks for our elementary students in particular, making sure that we're getting them out and spaced out very far. But you know, all of us have been wearing masks, and you know, on a day like today, it's not the most comfortable thing. So we, in addition to just trying to, all of us create mask endurance where we can wear masks for a long, prolonged period of time, but also being able to take them off. So that's part of that recess, is looking to get kids outside individually, you know, in classrooms, and spacing them out. The days of unfortunately, kids doing, you know, playing basketball on the blacktop or things like that, having whole groups, that's not going to happen. It's really going to be goal of getting them out, kind of walking around, getting some fresh air, being able to take off their mask. And that's what recess. And you know, just I think everybody recognizes this, but you know, we're trying to adhere to the guidelines. You know, this is not my optimum either. You know, I want kids to go back to the way things are. We're just trying to work into these finite parameters as much as we can, and to make sure kids are safe. But you know, one parent reached out and was like, "You like this?" I'm like, "I don't like this. I would love to go back to the way it was." You know, it's not, certainly not my choice, my choosing at all. Any other board member questions? So I don't, Deb, I don't know how you want to handle it, because typically, you know, we would go right into the finance
Right.
presentation. I don't know if you want to open it up.
Yeah.
It's up to
Yeah.
you.
I'd
Can I
like-
just,
Yeah.
good, just say some quick, just PR. On Wednesday night, we're going to do our first virtual welcome for our kindergartners and their families. You know, with all this craziness, this is kind of the population I think have been most impacted. We usually, I think, do a nice job welcoming our families into the district and doing some nice events for them. It just, you know, we want to just keep them connected and make sure. So that'll take place Wednesday night at 6 p.m. As we move forward. So with that, I don't know if you want to kind of open it up for public comment, but this presentation again will be posted. A letter will go out tomorrow, and FAQs will be posted by the end of the day tomorrow. So a lot of questions that people might have will be available for that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for that thorough report and for entertaining our questions. What I would like to do is juggle our agenda a little bit here, as you said, and move into our public comment session. Mr. Quinn, I'm sorry, we're going to put you on hold for just a few more minutes. I would like to request a motion to move to public comment, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstaining? Motion carries. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take up the matter at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by district administration. Public comment is now open. Members of the public, I might also add that if it's easier for you, you may place your question in the chat. We can entertain questions in that format as well. Okay. Well, as Dr. Smith mentioned, feel free to reach out via the email address that he mentioned, or, oh, here we go. There's one.
So, as I mentioned, so the question for those of you who can't see the chat is, how do you plan to have enough teachers to adequately staff all the smaller classes, given that all grades will require double the amount of teachers? So on the secondary level, I think you understand that. That's the AB schedule. On the elementary level, that is really kind of built on the schedule that I shared is really built on the assumption that we're going to have a percentage of parents who choose remote learning. So that will enable us to do a couple of things. One is have smaller class sizes because there will be students placed on remote learning. Two is that we are also going to employ the use of our special education teachers to work with our special needs students in a unique kind of setup that Paulette shared with our special education parents. Two is using our some of our staff, our basic skills instructors, and some of our TIP teachers to run homeroom classes with small groups. So that's going to be using all of our existing staff. In some cases, we might run into a situation where we might need to employ either some of our certified paras or some of our substitute teachers, depending on how many staff come back and how we wade through this to make sure it works. But that's our goal at this point. Is there a plan in place to notify parents if a family member of a classmate tests positive? The concern is asymptomatic. Yeah, so I mean, that's the question is that contact tracing and where that ends. Our goal is this. Our goal is that people, you know, and I'll put it out there because I've been in education 27 years, that, you know, I know that we've all on occasion sent kids to school, you know, dosed them up with Tylenol. We really need people to be honest and open with us. If they have had exposure in their homes, they need to let us know. This is a public health emergency. They need to let us know so we can let folks know the situation. So with that, we are working with our Department of Health. Our expectation is to notify families of if there's a positive test, and the possibility that that whole pod or group could quarantine for up to 14 days. So yeah, there is a plan in place. People might not be happy with the number of notifications or how it's notified, but our expectation is to make sure that all of us feel safe and comfortable through this.
I think we have more of a comment there from Mrs. DiLorenzo. Thank you for that. Any other questions from the members of the public?
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, seeing none, we will close this session of public comment and move on. Thank you for participating. I would like to move to our budget discussion on facilities led by Mr. Quinn and Mr. Calavita, please.
Okay. Close comment.
So while Bob's getting ready, I will just say, so the board, as part of our goals was to really have continued discussions regarding our budget. This is our first budget, hard to believe, it's July, but this is our first budget review session. So what they are going to do is give a little bit of overview of our facilities program. And those of you who don't know, members of the public, Tom Quinn is our Director of Facilities. Mr. Calavita is our school business administrator and the assistant superintendent for finance and 8-time winner of the ASBO International something.
And the father of the student called out by the superintendent at graduation.
Yes.
Okay, this is crazy, Tom. I don't understand how you did this all these times, but it's weird presenting to nobody. So this is an encore performance of Mr. Quinn and I kind of giving a quick facilities overview. Last year we went probably an hour. We're going to try to stream that down to 10 or 15 minutes. to kind of give just an overview for budgetary purposes, what we do and what Tom leads in the facilities department. Okay. Essentially, and Tom's going to jump in as we move through it, but facilities intent, what Tom supervises is the maintenance, custodial, and grounds departments. And then the state separates those into those three separate categories. Okay. Maintenance budget consists of salaries of directors, required maintenance for school facilities, which are things that we must do to keep the buildings open and safe for use. Custodial services, which is the daily upkeep of the facilities, and then the care of grounds, the grounds areas, which is the outdoor areas of our buildings. Okay, we're going to just kind of go through this. If there's questions at the end, we can go back. All right, Tom, why don't you talk a little bit about what you've done with facilities over the last year or so?
Sure. We do short-term and long-term planning on just about everything. How we handle our replacement of boilers, capital projects. As you know, we're in the middle of a capital project right now with repaving at Bear Tavern, Timberlane, and Admin. We've run into a few problems at Admin with mushy soil, where instead of going down 8 inches, we've actually had to have gone down 18 plus inches just to try and come to something that was stabilized or add fiber and stone over it. We constantly work with energy management. We're always doing building repairs. You'll see in an upcoming slide that on the plumbing side of it, we're really challenged. You know, we have so many fixtures that are constantly being broken. It's extremely difficult for us. We have safety, we have environmental issues, we have inspections. We're constantly working with PARS Environmental to help us out with any of the environmental issues. We did an asbestos abatement this year over at Bear Tavern so that we could put down new floor tile in APOD that required an asbestos abatement of the existing 9x9 floor tiles that were put down in 1961. And then we have to train people on that stuff.
One thing I just want to reiterate there for the board, and Tom does a great job with this, but we make sure that everything we do, and we've gotten more eco-friendly with a lot of things we've done, but we also make sure that anytime there's an environmental issue, whether it be water-based or asbestos-based, that it's contained and that everybody knows about it before it's done. It's one of those things that is tantamount amongst school districts, is to make sure that anytime you're removing these things, that it's done properly and with the respect for the children and the employees that are going to be in those spaces.
And that follows in especially with asbestos abatements and lead. Lead paint, which if you guys remember, we did a lead paint abatement and capsulization on the front of the admin building. And that was because we had old lead paint that was chipping off, and we had small children that were walking up there to go to the food bank. It became very important for us to take care of that immediately so that we could avoid any issues. Lead paint can have a tremendous effect on children under the age of 5.
Okay. General maintenance, this is just kind of patting Tom on the back about all the work that we do. We're very lucky in this district to have skilled tradespeople in most or all of the categories that you see there. And we try to do it all in-house as much as we can. It saves a lot of money. A lot of times you can't get electricians to come in unless they have a whole slew of projects. They won't come in to change a ballast on a light in a classroom. You got to have 50 of them for them to come in to make it worth their while. We have our electrician that can constantly be on the move, changing out things as they need to be done. We thank the board over the years for giving us that ability to do that, and it makes us a whole lot more efficient.
And we're able to do welding and carpentry work and locksmithing work that a lot of districts just really don't have the ability to do. They have to constantly hire out to do that, and that's much more expensive to do it.
Okay, and this is where Tom was talking about the plumbing and the HVAC and the electrical, the 3 biggest areas that we, do our own work on, and the amount of money it saves. So Tom can comment a little bit on that, the money that being able to do this saves.
Right, and if you think of 3,500 kids, utilizing restrooms every day, and they don't treat them with kid gloves, let's say. So, with 500 toilets and over 1,000 sinks, it becomes very difficult for us to handle many of the problems that continue to go on. In one sense, we're very fortunate that many of our restrooms are touch-free, but that touch-free also breaks a lot. The sensors are expensive. They don't last very long. Some of the brands are difficult to replace. So it's a constant battle for us. HVAC right now, I have most of my HVAC crew out inspecting and testing every single system to ensure that when we come back in September, I can tell you for sure whether or not a system works or if it's in need of repair. We're constantly changing filters. I have one guy that goes around and all his job is PM. So he does filters, he does belts, he analyzes the motors, oils the motors. But we're changing well over 1,500 filters per filter change, along with all the belts. And it's one guy doing it. It is taxing to say the least. But we're keeping up with it. And it's something that, especially in this time, is extremely important that we make sure that we're keeping up with all of that.
Okay. Some of the things, and again, this is just some of the things that we've done, maintenance initiatives. We decided to, again, we used to outsource our grass cutting. We brought it in-house because we saw it as a savings. And it also gave our guys, some of our subs some extra work to do so that they stayed on in the district and didn't leave to go elsewhere. Again, HVAC, doing it ourselves saves money. I think Tom quoted last year we were able to save $15,000 by installing a HVAC unit at the high school, replacing it, rather than having a contractor do it. These initiatives of bringing things in-house helps save the district money in the long run.
And typically on that HVAC end, we do our own refrigeration repairs and everything now, which we had never done before. So when something breaks in the kitchen, we're doing the repairs ourselves. We save the district, I would actually estimate hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because we're not bringing in those outside contractors. On our grounds unit, by even paying overtime to some custodians for the grounds work, we ended up saving about $25,000 to $30,000 by handling all of the grass cutting in-house.
Again, the beauty of that too is the ease of our students. We can cut grass when we want to cut it, not when a contractor comes in and tells us they're going to cut it. Shifting over to custodial, again, our custodians are that first line of defense in the buildings, keeping them open and secure. Usually the first one's in the morning, creating that good, safe environment. They champion our green cleaning products. We've gotten rid of most of the caustic chemicals that we used to use to clean with. The disinfectants we do it in a green way. We have a new cleaning protocol that's been in place for several years. It's actually going to benefit us when we do come back, in that they know our guys know how to clean in groups. One guy has this job, and their job is to disinfect. This guy's to come back and do the floors. This guy's going to empty the trash cans. This guy's doing bathrooms. And they can do these things without cross-contaminating rooms, and that's going to be very important
That's something that we instituted starting back about 3.5 years ago or so, building by building. And basically what it comes down to is there's nothing that's as Bob said, there's nothing that's cross-contaminated. A floor mop that's used in a restroom is only used in that restroom. It's not used in the next one. It's not used in a classroom. Prior to that, when they were doing zonal cleaning, a lot of times you would see somebody dip a mop and they would go in and clean a restroom, and then they'd go in and clean a classroom with it. So we no longer have any of that kind of stuff. Everything is based per room or per space. And the rags and mops are then sanitized and sterilized in washing machines afterwards.
Okay, and then one of the things we actually added before Corona, again, we're going to say that, is the disinfecting, the electrostatic wands that spray down all of our rooms after they're cleaned and sanitized, and then that added layer of disinfection for those rooms. And that was going on every night way before this started.
Yeah, we actually started using those about 2 years ago.
Okay. You went back there, Tom?
No, that's fine. You can move on to the next one. Okay.
Our grounds guys are very busy. There's 4 of them. in the outdoor times, in the fall and the spring, they are constantly busy with keeping grass cut, fields set up for students. Our fields, I would argue, are among the best in the area. We get comments all the time, and such sports as field hockey, where you get constant arguments from officials that will refuse to referee your game if your turf is not cut appropriately. Have always commented how well our fields are maintained. Those four guys' constant effort and the care that they take into those facilities. They also assist with everything from snow removal to playground maintenance to our general landscaping, but they also do tree removal and tree trimming around our neighbors' properties, and any number of other repairs and replacements. And their off seasons, they also have developed a lot of the skills by working side by side with our maintenance guys to be able to assist in those areas and actually take on work on their own. So while maybe they are not a trained electrician, they can provide support to our electrician, support to our plumber, support to our carpenter. And that has benefited the crew. And again, bringing a lot of this stuff in-house. We do our own equipment repair, our own lawnmower repair. A lot of school districts are sending that stuff out and paying whatever the going rate is. We're very fortunate in that matter. Tom, anything on that?
No, I think you pretty much handled that. I mean, our newest hire in the grounds department is very, very good at landscaping. He even has come to me and said that, hey, look, this is going to look a little bit different when I cut it, but it's what needs to be done. And that's what I look for when we hire people is someone who knows what they're doing. And I'm not afraid to look at someone who knows more than I do because they're a specialist in their fields. I'm just an overseer.
Again, our guys are starting, as you've seen around the district, the meadows and the different echo areas that are in all of our schools. Our guys are learning how to take care of those areas as well. Again, we've covered a lot of these things. We've worked with our HVAC work over the years to become more eco-friendly, more energy efficient, using energy management systems that temper outside air so that you're not trying to heat 20-degree air. You're trying to heat 50 and 60-degree air because it's been tempered with the exhaust. The high school has been converted to motion sensors in the classrooms and LED lighting throughout. And we hope to, as funds become available, to move towards with the other schools and bring them up to in the LED and motion sensor lighting areas as grants become available to schools like ours.
On the solar end, we do need to get a contractor in to work on the solar process over at Timberlane. We seem to be having some trouble with that. It continues to cut off. We have to reset it constantly. So we're working on trying to get that rectified. But, all in all, we do very well with bringing in that the savings through the solar. As Bob said, all the lighting at CHS is now LED, including all of the parking lot lighting.
Okay. All right, and then just some of the things that we've been doing and the support that the facilities program provides out to the community and to the district at whole. Again, one of the big things that we've done is the rebates that we've gotten, even at the high school project. While we did have a referendum funds for that, we did go through the state for grants that we'll get money back on and rebates on for installing certain fixtures. And as the efficiency of our system is measured, we'll get money back on those as well. The ROD grants, we've used state money whenever we can to help offset the district on 40 cents on the dollar. So that helps out.
I can't thank the board enough for adopting green cleaning policies, which allow us to really follow the green cleaning initiatives on that kind of stuff. We frequently use Boy Scouts to work on projects for us. The filtered water fountains, as I've mentioned before, especially now in this time that we're in, we have all of our water fountains are bottle fill fountains. What we're trying to do right now is eliminate the bubblers so that we don't have to worry about that. We've definitely turned them all off, but I'm actually trying to take them off of all the fountains so that the kids can just use the bottle fill part of that. This is huge. I mean, I got to tell you, most districts have only a couple of these. And, you guys have been very supportive in us moving forward on this and taking care of it. In the 5 years that I've been here, we've put in 60 of those bottle fill stations.
And they're hugely popular with the staff, students, and guests of our facility. That you constantly are seeing people filling personal water bottles with these machines. We
And
also go ahead,
go ahead.
Tom.
Okay, around the school gardens and stuff, and working with all the district staff and trying to create these different gardens, we've also been able to utilize in the courtyards robotic mowers that tremendously help us. We had an extreme amount of difficulty cleaning, cutting grass in courtyards. It's loud, it's noisy. You have to open up doors and drive the mowers through. If we're trying to do it during the school day, it's obtrusive to the learning process. Well, we've been purchasing these robotic mowers that handle those interior courtyards in pretty much silence. They do it 24 hours a day. They keep the grass maintained, and we're able to go around the garden areas and maintain all the grass areas surrounding those gardens.
Okay. Just lastly, as we try to close out, indoor air quality is a huge piece of what Tom does, and we respond swiftly to any complaints of indoor air quality, but a lot of our policies and procedures and the things that we use, the chemicals we use, the equipment we use, and the carpeting we install is all designed to reduce indoor air quality and the learning environment, enhancing the learning environment for students. And again, just to kind of go through, this is a huge list of things on the environmental level that we monitor and maintain. All of those things are referenced in the policies and procedures that the board has supported us with knowing and going.
And on that group there, because we have put in so many of those bottle fill stations over the last couple of years, we actually did have PARS come back out and redo lead testing on several fixtures. Everything that's new should be retested. And of course, you know, because they're filtered, everything on any of those stations comes back negligible on lead content. We also found out during the whole PFNA, PFNO thing that those stations also filter all those contaminants out too.
Okay. And lastly, safety and security, all this ties in. A huge area of just making sure that all of our systems are running, are up to code, and are keeping our staff and students safe and schools ready for the kids to be learning. Sorry for the rush through version of it. It's been a long night for the board members to hear some of this stuff. Just wanted to see if there's any questions from board members at this point.
Bob, I had a question for you and Tom, just from the standpoint of us having discussed how we're going to attempt to limit visitors into the schools during the day. One, it's good that we have so much of our in-district staff able to help us in regard to, you know, maintaining many of these items when we have to do repairs, et cetera. But is it changing how we do maintenance for those things that we can't handle on our own? Like, you know, there may be emergency situations, or, you know, would we potentially be looking at doing things when students are in the building? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure, I can speak to that a little bit. Anytime we have to have a contractor in the building, I try to notify the school administration immediately as far as my knowledge of it. There are some things that there's not a lot of time given. For instance, if we have a fire alarm issue, I need to get the fire alarm addressed as soon as possible, and I may only be able to give them a few minutes notice that the company is going to be on site, because they may be just 5 minutes away when I call them. Normally, though, for most things, I notify the building principal, the head custodians, and everyone in the office that I'm expecting such and such a contractor to be on site on whatever day.
But for the most part, Adam, we like to keep the contractors away from students. They're escorted to their place of work. As per policy, they would sign in at the main office, and usually the head custodian or designee would escort that person to their area of work. You know, they know they're not to use bathrooms, or not to interact with kids and things like that. But we try to limit that as much as possible. And if they're working during passing time, we have them move to the side.
From that standpoint, would we plan to screen them just as we'd have staff and students come in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. As you know, you can always feel free to reach out on any of these topics if you have a question. Dr. Smith, we'll kick it back to you.
I can give it back to Deb Linthorst, but I will say I made light of Bob's award, but the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting is quite an award, and I didn't mean to belittle it, Bob. It really is quite an accomplishment and one we're very proud of. Our facilities job work and Mr. Quinn's addition over the last couple of years has really helped us move forward, particularly with our environmental efforts. Bob, I don't know if you mentioned it, but really through their work and efforts, all 6 of our schools received the Bronze Award for Sustainable Jersey. And the Bear Tavern School received the National Green Ribbon Award. So we've done some great work in our district thanks to all their efforts.
And I'd like to thank both of you again for your presentation and for allowing the board to do a deeper dive into this and for making this information accessible to us. I think it's very important and helps us to be knowledgeable about the inner workings of the district. As we move on later to our policy committee report, the policy that's up for first read tonight is regarding school security, and certainly a lot of the work that you do helps to keep our schools safe and to, protect the community's interests. This is certainly, these buildings are a substantial community investment, and we thank you for maintaining them in such a great manner. So thank you.
We appreciate that, and I appreciate the discussions as we try to do things going forward. The board has always been receptive to all those initiatives that we've wanted to do, and it helps the board to understand why facilities is such a large part of the budget. There's a lot that goes on in it. So,
absolutely, thank you again. So moving on in our agenda, I would like to ask if there are any items of old business. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. And I hope that board members have had a chance to review all the items marked with an asterisk. I would like to request a motion to move the items on the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on any of the items? Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, motion carries. Mr. Sawicki, would you like to give a report for Finance and Facilities, please?
Yes. So the Finance and Facilities Committee met last Wednesday, discussed a number of topics. One, we spent quite a bit of time talking about some of the facilities related aspects of the return to school. So thanks again for that. And Dr. Smith summarized those. We also got an update in terms of the status of our summer projects, and Mr. Quinn discussed those. Work has been going on at the board office and at Timber Lane, and is planned to move on to Bear Tavern in terms of the paving projects. The rest of the time we spent, we more or less had a discussion and presentation from our insurance focals, and we learned more about what the recently approved changes and the establishment of the educators plan for medical insurance and prescription drug insurance, what that means. And there's still a lot in regard to that has yet to be defined, but I think it's worth just noting some key aspects of it, at least as far as it pertains to our district. It's the same network, the Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield network of providers, so that there's not a change to the staff there. It does appear to be more focused towards, trying to have have medical visits within network. There's some incentives there. There will be as we heard, there will be 2 opportunities for staff to consider changing over to the plan, those staff members who are under our current plans. As we had to explain to us, new hires as of July 1st will be required to go into the educators plan. And Bob, if you have any other key aspects of it that you think are worth noting, please do.
No, I think you hit it, Adam. I think a lot of it is we're going to see how it pans out and how many people go into it. It will be a loss of revenue to the district. We hope that, as our governor has said, it's going to be a reduction in costs as well. We'll see as that happens. I think the fact that we made the move last year to be self-insured is going to help us immensely, because as other districts, we will not be paying premiums. We will be paying for the claims. So if we have continued to operate as efficiently as we have, claims will help us reduce our rates going forward in the future. So that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Sawicki. Any other questions with regard to facilities and finance, board members? Okay, we will move on to personnel. Ms. Murray, please. Do you have some items to move?
Oh, hold on. Oh, good. I thought I was on mute still. Sorry. Yes, I do have some items to move. So may I have a motion, please, to move my action items?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so I will talk a little bit about the very full meeting that we had this evening with our new Director of Human Resources, Ms. Smith. She did a wonderful job for her first time, and it was a little overwhelming how much we had to cover today. So first and foremost, we have retirement acceptances to highlight. One of them being Donna Cariola, who's a teacher of art at the Timberlane Middle School. My daughter had her. She was an amazing teacher, and she has been in the district since 1990. Ms. Judith Kelly, who is the Secretary of Pupil Services. She's been in the district since 1995. Liz Gutierrez, who is an administrative assistant and has definitely been such an amazing asset to our board for quite a number of years. She will also be sorely missed. We have some appointments to highlight. One of the very key ones would be our K through 12 supervisor of school counseling, who she got an amazing, resounding acceptance from the people who had interviewed her. So for the board's approval, she would start September 1st. She comes to us from Robbinsville. In addition to another key position at the Central High School for vice principal, an internal candidate, Courtney Underwood, would also she'd be starting July 27th. So she is also on the agenda for our approval. We also discussed extracurricular appointments. So as we move into some uncharted territory regarding our extracurriculars, we are approving head coaches for the month of August. And we'll really be on a month-to-month basis as we move through phase one of our starting to play. And marching band will be on the docket for our next meeting. Also on the agenda for our approval, may it be resolved that the board approve the participation in the Central Jersey program for recruitment for diverse educators. It's called CJ Pride. For the 2020-2021 school year, we have an annual membership fee for shared services of $100. So we need to approve that this evening. And finally, on our agenda, very excited to announce that the Hopewell Valley, the Network Administrators Association has ratified the memorandum of agreement with our Board of Education. So I'd like to, that's commencing from July 1st, 2020 and concluding June 30th of 2023. So may it be resolved that the board accept the memorandum of agreement between the Hopewell Valley Regional School District Board of Education and the Hopewell Valley Network Administrators Association. Thank you very much to the association for their ever supportive means of negotiating with the board for the best interests of our staff and students. So Mr. Calavita, I don't know how you want to do this roll call, but if there's any questions, we can start with that discussion. Okay. Mr. Calavita.
Okay. Mr. Herbert.
Yeah.
Ms. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Mason.
Yes.
Ms. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki.
Yes.
Ms. Tracy.
Yes.
Ms. Grillo.
Yes.
And Ms. Linthorst.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to add my word of congratulations to both, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, Mrs. Underwood and Ms. Rotundo for your appointments. We're glad to have you on board, and we look forward to working with you in the time to come. And I would also like to wish my best to Ms. Carriola and Ms. Kelly and Ms. Gutierrez and Dr. Abrams as well. So thank you. And thank you, Ms. Murray, for your report. We will move on to education program. I know Mrs. O'Reilly is not with us tonight, and we did not have a meeting in the month of June, but Dr. Treese, I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to mention tonight. If not, we will move on, but giving you the opportunity if there's anything you'd like to share with the board.
Well, just quickly, I'd like to share that we're entering our last week of the Summer Bridge program. It was something that the Education Program Committee approved kind of this late spring as an opportunity for some of our students to get a little support over the summer in algebra and English 1 honors. The program went very well. We got some great feedback from parents on how we can even make it better next year. And it was just a great opportunity for our kids to get acclimated to the high school before they start. I'm hoping to expand it next year. So that was good news.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We will move on to community relations. Mrs. Long.
Yes. Basically, I'm finding that everything we discussed during our community relations is what is in Dr. Smith's report. So we discussed the survey results, and Ms. Grillo is part of our committee, so she was able to give us insight from what she had picked out and picked apart through all of it. We discussed the reopening, the letter that will be going out, asking parents to commit to if they're doing online for the first quarter or semester, the athletics timeline and what that looks like, as well as the app for your phone. And hopefully everyone has got that. I have not. I will keep looking at my phone. I'm going to do it. But everyone needs to get the app. So that was our meeting.
The app is free.
It's a free app.
Thank you. This wasn't something that we discussed in community relations, but, and this is probably a question for you, Dr. Smith. Do we have any sense for how many folks have enrolled for text messaging? I know that's going to be important moving forward. I'm just curious as to if we have any details on how many parents have enrolled.
Not as many as you would hope. I'm going to really push that also because I think last check, it was somewhere around, I think it was under 1,000.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. We'll work to promote that for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe we need something to go out again then regarding that.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to policy, item up for first read, which I referred to earlier in the meeting. We have policy and regulation 7440 for school district security. I'd like to request that a board member moves that item, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, just some quick discussion on that. So this is just our, the board's annual review of the safety and security policy. There were no substantial changes made to the policy. You know, it's our the straightforward policy that you know, that we ensure that we maintain our facilities and that they are secure against unwelcome intrusion, protection against fire hazards and faulty equipment, and that, you know, ensuring that we're in compliance with safe practices in the use of electrics and plumbing and so forth, all of the things that that Mr. Quinn discussed with us earlier. It also allows for the superintendent to designate a school administrator as a school safety specialist for the district, and make sure that we have the proper personal access to school buildings and grounds outside of the school hours, school day hours, which will be somewhat limited, of course, in the situation with COVID. Any questions on the policy or regulation, board members? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of passing this for first read? Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Items up for second read. I don't believe these require any further discussion, although I will note that the waiver of student transportation that we discussed last week and that we moved for first read is on the list, so that parents can let us know if they choose to opt out of transportation for the fall. Are there any further questions on any of those policies or regulations? Seeing none, I would request a motion that we can do a roll call vote on these items for second read, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Calavita, roll call, please.
Ms. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Mason,
Yes.
Ms. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki,
Yes.
Ms. Tracy,
Yes.
Ms. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
and Ms. Linthorst.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. Review of board calendars. Again, I'd like to request a motion to approve the July and August 2020 calendars, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. So July, we're kind of through. I don't know that we have any more meetings coming up in July.
I think you're going to need one for Monday. It doesn't necessarily have to be at night, but if we can get the plan out to the board this week and for their review on Monday, so we can get it posted and out to the county, if that could work. I would expect it to be a short meeting unless you have questions, but I think it's more of a procedural. The plan that we will submit needs to be board approved.
Are we thinking of a Monday, 7 o'clock, or kind of our typical time, 7:30?
It's up to the board, but that would, if you have that time spotted out, I promise to be brief. More briefer than Bob.
Board members, do we have a preference as to time?
7's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It gets so little to shine.
Okay, and then August calendars for committee meetings. Policy, would we do the morning of the 7th or the 14th? Probably the 7th, right? If we were looking at a Friday.
I'm out on the 7th, but you could do
Okay.
it. The 14th is better.
Could we possibly do the 13th, Deb?
We could do that before or after agenda review.
Yeah.
Okay, that would work for me. Policy committee members, does that work?
Yeah.
The
8 o'clock?
13th? Yeah, that's good.
Right. Thank you. Community relations.
We've been doing the Thursday before the regular board meeting at 3. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but whatever that is.
The 13th?
The 12th?
13th. The Thursday before.
You said the Wednesday, right?
We've been doing Thursday, haven't we?
Oh, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday works. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Adam, I had policy at 5 o'clock on the 10th. Does that work for everybody?
That's fine by me.
Yeah. That works for you, Bill, the 10th?
What day? August
10th.
10th, Monday.
5. Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Geez. That's probably fine. I'm coming back from vacation today, so I will probably be back by then.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Treese, do you want to wait to speak with Ms. O'Reilly, or would you like to put a tentative date down?
I feel like we need to talk to her because sometimes she's not available. Did she give you any idea when she thought it might be good for her?
I don't know, and I
her first.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We will do that. Thank you.
We're kind of around based on her. She's teaching, I think, this summer, doing some work this summer.
Yes, she is. And personnel we would do at 7 o'clock before the next meeting. So that's the 17th. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Moving along. Do we have any items of new business? Okay, seeing none, we will move to our second public comment session. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or may direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by district administration. Public comment is now open. I will state again, members of the public, if you feel more comfortable putting your comment in the chat, please proceed to do so. Okay.
Good evening.
Oh, there we go.
My name is Lori Rotundo, and I actually live on 1 Maple Lane in Pennington. And I just wanted to take the time to thank the members of the Board of Education for your appointment and approval this evening. I'm very eager to begin my transition, and I look forward to partnering with all of you to continue personalized service that we provide, the district provides to both students and their families. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Rotundo. Any other public comment? Okay.
Nope. I think Courtney raised her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you, Courtney? Please go ahead.
Took me a moment to get the mic back on. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to serve as the vice principal at Central High School. I'm really looking forward to continuing my work in the school district at the high school level. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood. We appreciate it. Anyone else for public comment this evening? Okay, going once, twice. Public comment is now closed. I would like to request a motion for the board to move into executive session to discuss a staff matter.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? The motion carries. Thank you, everyone, and we will move over to channel 2.
No action will be taken either during that.
And no action will be taken. Thank you, Mr. Calavita.
I'd like to request a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Goodbye.